Remake Rewind.
All right, thank you for listening to Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decide if remakes and reboots should have happened. I'm Mike, as always. With me
You're always
is
Mike.
Dustin. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm good. I'm all right.
Good.
I'm
Good.
not Mike.
Double D, how are you?
What?
How are you, Double D?
I'm all right. I'm good. I'm good, Michael.
I'm glad. So we're going to be watching Total Recall, or I guess we already watched it. We're going to be talking about Total Recall.
We tried to watch it.
It's it's fitting that this is the first movie you picked, Double D, because it's the original one is by the same director as RoboCop.
Oh yeah, that's why I loved it so much.
Yep, it was pretty great. I haven't seen the original Total Recall. I'd say easily in 10, 15 years.
Yep.
And it's one of those movies that I always watch the watered down version on like TBS. It was on TBS all the time.
Yeah.
And I vividly remember the last like 40 minutes, or so. Basically as soon as he gets to Mars I remember, like, but I don't really remember the previous part, like before he gets to Mars. And I forgot that Sharon Stone was in this movie.
Yeah.
And I forgot just how awesome this movie is.
It's a great movie.
What do you guys think?
All around, it's a fantastic movie, just like RoboCop was, the first one, I should say.
Yes, I agree. What are your guys' history with this movie? Is it just one that you guys remember watching all the time, or is it just one that, you know, when it popped on you were excited?
I remember it like being excited to watch it on TV, like you were saying. I remember the girl with the 3 boobs was like a big deal when I was in like junior high, or however old I was when people were talking about this movie. That was really the standout part of the movie, I think, around junior high.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me,
Pretty
this movie is a good part of my childhood, just like RoboCop. Good old bloody fun, you know? But, I mean, it came out in 1990. I was not even a year old yet. But I definitely watched it on bootleg VHS. So that's real
cool.
good memories for me.
That's really cool.
I think we should just get into it, talk about it. Double D, can you tell us what this movie is about? Can you read one of them summaries?
I'm going to get you these IMDb summaries real quick. All right, this one's written by John Vogel for the original 1990 Total Recall. Let me get my reading voice ready. What is reality when you can't trust your memory? An earthbound construction worker keeps having dreams about Mars. A trip to false memory transplant service for an imaginary trip to Mars goes terribly wrong, and another personality surfaces. When his old self returns, he finds groups of his friends, and several strangers seem to have orders to kill him. He finds records of other self left him. What? He finds records his other self left him to tell him to get to Mars to join up with the underground. The reality of the situation is constantly in question. Who is he? Which personality is correct? Which version of reality is true?
Ooh. So much intrigue.
Gosh, so good.
So right off the bat, the one thing I want to ask you guys, and I've read a bunch of articles, you know, in prep for this podcast, and some people do seem to think that the entire movie is like a dream, the implanted memory.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
how do you guys feel about that? Do you think this, like, the movie happened, or do you think it's all just the Total Recall implantation?
I mean, in the original movie, the 1990 movie, it could go either way. Honestly, like you see him fall asleep and go into the machine, and then they bring up the story where they hit like a memory cap or whatever it is.
If the whole thing is the implanted memory from Recall, it's awesome.
I don't think it is, though, because the beginning of the, like, it's just a matter of when does it start.
No, I'm saying it's an awesome implanted memory. Like what they're selling is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. No, it would be amazing if that was the case. The problem that I have with that theory that this is possibly a dream is he has a dream at the beginning of the movie with Melina before he goes to Recall. So it's just a matter of, and it would make more sense if it was a dream if this movie had like first person narrative, like my name is Douglas Quaid, but I also had another name at some point. And if he was telling the story and he was an unreliable narrator, then that would make more sense. But because this is entirely like third person perspective, I don't really buy that it's a dream. But that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a theory.
I think for me, for both movies, they say that they're implanting a memory, so you're going to remember this stuff, right? But he's living it out. Like, it's not a memory.
Exactly.
That's what, for me, it says it's not a dream.
Yeah, I think it's the implantation of the memory that unlocks like who he actually is, because they're monkeying around with his brain.
Yeah.
It wasn't not Bob Hoskins was like, don't fuck with your brain. Like, I think that just speaks volumes about the movie. It's just like, yeah, if you fuck with your brain, you're not really ever gonna know what's going on. And I feel like it's just such a bad idea to do Total Recall, just because you don't really know, like, your brain is.
You're gonna end up lobotomized.
Your body.
You're tricking your brain. You're gunking it up.
And then especially, like, it's one thing to have a like, oh, I've never been to Mars, I want to have an experience of going to Mars, and you're just like, oh, it's like a tourist one, and you're yourself. But having a spy one,
well, having something that could lead to like
stop?
PTSD and like, you know, things that would affect your personality, like being in life-threatening situations, there would be other consequences to putting that in your brain, right?
Yeah.
Like your brain would respond to that negatively, probably. Like if you're just some dope who's like got a regular job and, oh yeah, make me a super spy and I'm gonna have this memory of when I was almost getting killed many times, you're gonna react to that, right?
Oh yeah, I used to be a secret agent, then I stopped and became a construction worker.
Yeah, to me that part never really made sense, because it's just like, where does it end? Like, how do you have this memory of being a secret agent, and how far back do those memories go, and how could you ever be fulfilled after that if you have these memories? I don't know. That's just a major logic fail for me. But other than that, this movie's fucking
It's still really
spectacular.
fun.
So good.
It's a fun movie. You know what I also forgot about? The special effects in this movie
Oh God.
are awesome. Like,
Yes,
I
so
always like when they're pulling the tracker bug out of his brain.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
And they do this weird, like, it's a weird animatronic Arnold head. And, like, you know, it looks a little weird, but it also, you would expect a face to look weird if it's being contorted and having a fucking shooter marble-sized ball taken out of his
device
brain.
that comes out of his nostril.
Yeah, that was.
I don't even know how that physically works.
Well, when you can pull it out of a fake head.
Yeah.
Once
But
you hear
it
the crunch, you're there.
It looked pretty good.
It looked
though,
awesome. Those scenes looked great,
Like,
and like the scenes when they were like outside on Mars and like his suit broke and his face was those looked really good when their eyes were bugging out and stuff.
Yeah.
Right in the
And
beginning of the movie.
the
Those
old
were my favorite
lady
parts.
mask that he wears is super cool when he like takes it off and it like splits from a woman's head to like this ball bomb and throws it. Like, that's amazing.
That was wild.
Like,
Where did he get that?
From his little spy kit in that suitcase.
Dang, that's an amazing thing to have in that kit. It was a big mask.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
So
And it was a bomb.
Kind of like, yeah, no, surprise. No, this movie was awesome. Like, it's just an interesting world. Like, they built like a whole world, and with like
There's
all those
mutants.
weird, crazy future tech.
Two
There's
worlds.
mutants.
They built
Oh my
two
god.
worlds.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, Double D, why don't you take us through the movie a little bit and some of the things you want to talk about. What are the highlights for you?
I mean, special effects you already went over. I also want to touch on how buff Arnold is.
Huge.
Especially
Huge.
when he's
He's
wielding
always
that jackhammer.
huge.
Yeah, that
Oh
jackhammer.
my god, dude, what the hell?
It's like a toy jackhammer.
It's way too much.
So when we were supposed to record this, I don't know, like a week ago or whatever. So I watched this movie almost 3 weeks ago. So I got up a little early this morning and I was like, I'm just gonna watch the beginning of the original one again. And before we started recording, I got to the point where he got to recall, but the same thing when he was doing the jackhammer, I'm like, Jesus Christ, look at that guy's arms.
Yeah, exactly.
It's insane. They're bigger than my legs.
He's
It's
a
like the
monster.
size of my
He
head.
didn't even need a jackhammer. He could have been breaking those rocks with his fist.
With his fist, yeah, just punching.
Punching the ground.
That would have been a funny scene.
Oh, man.
Like punching the ground, then he turns to, hey, guy, you ever hear about Total Recall? Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah,
Well,
so
like-
we'll go over what Arnold, we'll go over his wife, we'll go over Melina, right? Well, just the characters in general. Just the storyline progression, just like it's a different story where he goes to Mars and where he's still on Earth, where there's only 2 colonies on the 2012 one. So it's a different story altogether.
Yeah. You know what's another thing I forgot about, and it makes sense with the director of RoboCop? Fucking motherfucking Dick Jones is in this movie.
Yep.
He's the bad guy
Yeah.
again.
Oh, yeah,
He plays
Cohagen.
He's a
Cohagen.
bad dude.
Fucking
Lives for
Fucking
us.
Dick
Son of a
Jones.
bitch.
motherfucker.
It's a real dick, man.
Well, they were trying to, like,
so
they were
let's-
withholding, like, air or something, like, super mean, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they're holding air
Yeah.
ransom.
Yeah.
Well, basically, in a nutshell, like high level plot, he is bored. He goes to Total Recall. They go to implant the memory, but it turns out he already has a spy memory, so it they don't even implant it, but just the like the trauma of fucking with his brain like brings back like these memories, and he just goes on a rampage until he gets to Mars, goes on another rampage, and then finds out that there's an alien pyramid that has a terraformer that will allow oxygen to
Free
flow
air for everyone
on Mars freely. Yeah, which the science of that doesn't make sense, and I'll
It's
get into
alien technology.
No, but the thing that doesn't make sense is they explain that there's ice in the core of
Alien
Mars, and then
ice.
it melts the ice to make oxygen. Which okay, I'll buy that part. But how long are you gonna keep melting the core, and won't the planet become unstable?
Forever.
Nah, dude, it only takes 20 minutes and then there's an atmosphere.
Yeah, dude. It's alien technology, dog.
And it just destroy. Well, the other thing that I have a problem with that scene at the end of the movie is like they succeed, they get the terraformer going, and there's so much oxygen flowing that it shatters like every piece of glass on the planet, right?
No, can we touch on that? Like, why is everything glass? Breakable
Right.
glass.
Easy to
and
break
that
glass.
plot-
Easy.
That
It's
plot
not
comes
even
up
like
several
really
times.
strong future glass.
No, not at all.
No, there's several times where like they're gonna shoot at Arnold, and a bad guy will be like, "Wait, don't! That's glass. You will die." And it's like, why? But the other thing that doesn't make sense is, so the reason they have the glass is to protect them from the radioactivity, and that's why there are all these mutants. Is because they have substandard dome glass, and that's why all these people have mutated. So yes, they have oxygen now, but now their entire environment is just destroyed. Aren't they all going to get mutated
Eventually,
as
they
well?
would all become
Oh,
mutants.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, that sucks. So, like, he fucking gave them all cancer, basically.
well, some of them got
by
powers.
the end of the movie. Oh yeah, a bunch of them have psychic powers, but they all have like tumors and cancer
Well,
and
you
weird
know.
babies growing out of them.
Quatos.
Well, if you want to get weird about it, maybe they weren't aliens. Maybe they were just humans that turned into mutants.
No, they're not aliens. They're
No, I'm talking about the old race.
oh no, they would have to be aliens because how would they have had the oxygen thousands of years ago? God damn it, Double D, think before you speak.
I'm just saying, it could get weird.
It
can get
definitely
weird.
got weird.
It really gets
Well,
weird.
that's true.
So Dennis, not
Wouldn't
Dennis
having a
Quaid,
Quato be just a huge pain in the ass?
yeah. Do you have to feed that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, he's in his stomach, right?
Well, he
So,
like
I don't
comes
think-
I
out
don't know.
sometimes to just tell people what to do. I guess I don't know.
That's the thing that's weird is he looks like a normal guy, and you're like, oh, here's the leader of the resistance. This guy's super cool. And then he like rips open his shirt, and this thing like folds out of him. And,
And
he's
then
like,
he goes into like a weird trance.
"Open-" Yeah, he's like, open your mind.
You know? And he had to hold his little arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Weird.
That'd be so
Uh,
shitty.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you can't
man.
talk
So-
while he's talking? Like, you gotta go into a
No,
weird
man.
Quato trance when he's talking?
Yeah, he's fucking. He's probing your mind, man. You're getting probed by a mutant.
And why does it look like a
Your
baby?
mind.
Because it's his baby brother, bro.
Forever?
It's not fully developed.
Yeah, man. He's got malnourished, man. And he had to be hiding. His growth got stunted by constantly being like wrapped in shirts and stuff.
Ugh.
And I'm sure that's actually more convenient to have a baby-sized being attached to you than a
Well,
a 6'2"
yeah,
guy.
I mean, yeah.
That'd be hard to hide if he's the leader of the resistance. All right, so is it Doug Quaid? I said Dennis Quaid earlier, but Doug Quaid.
Just wait.
Dennis Quaid is an actor.
It's very meta. It's like being John Malkovich.
Douglas
Doug
Quaid.
Douglas Quaid is kind of like this whiny guy. He's like, I really want to go on a vacation. I'm tired of living in this really nice apartment that has a television built
With
into
this
the wall.
super
It's
hot
nicer
babe
than
that
our-
just wants to fuck me all the time.
Yeah, we're sharing stuff, which is really funny because I guess she is Michael Ironside, like Richter's character. That's her husband in like the non-fantasy.
Yeah.
And there's a point in the movie where he's like saying something like, I just want to get her out of there, and like one of like the little like goons is like, yeah, I'm sure she's like hating it. And she's like, you sure she's enjoying it? And I'm like, no, I'm sure she's hating every moment. It's like she's just fucking Arnold like crazy. Like she's using that as a hall pass to fuck this like giant
Yeah,
dude.
that was her stall technique when they were coming into
Yeah.
the lobby. Like, yeah, how about
Yeah.
one last time?
Yeah, dude, that's tight. You know what was also really funny in that fight scene? So once he discovers that something's going on, and he goes home and he's like, I've been to recall. We need to get out of here. I killed a bunch of guys. And she's trying to talk him down, but realizes she can't. So they start fighting. Her signature move is the dick punch.
Oh yeah,
She punches him in the dick like 15
Many times.
through the
Many,
course
many
of this
times.
movie.
Arnold, man, that's his only weakness.
It's his Achilles heel. It's the Arnold dick.
many times.
Yeah, it's like I forgot how it's just like dick punch, dick punch, dick punch. It's almost like one of those like boxing things. I don't know what those bags are called.
Like
those
a
little
speed
like
bag,
speed
yeah.
bags.
It's great
He's
too
like,
because the camera will focus on it. The camera will just go
Yeah,
straight
and
to his
you
crotch.
see
And it's like, oh,
You just see his
my
fucking
dick.
bulge.
Yeah.
It was really weird. Her character, like, it was interesting. Like, we'll talk about the later one, but her character in this one and Richter were combined in the Kate Beckinsale
Yep.
portrayal of the movie. So they cut a lot of characters out in the newer version.
Mhm.
But man, this movie, like, I think we should just fast forward. Like, there's too many like, all the characters are kind of like just archetype
Yeah,
characters. There's nothing too crazy about him. There's Quaid, his wife, who's not really his wife. Then there's this guy named Richter, who's like this goon who works for Cohagen, who's trying to kill him, even though Cohagen's like, keep this dude alive. And he just wants him dead because he's been porking his wife for the better part of 2 months.
yeah.
Which, you know,
I wonder if
get
they
it. I'd
gave
be
him a
upset
bunch
if
of
somebody-
memories of like doing it to her like throughout their entire relationship.
to figure out what he likes. There's just like dirty ones from their honeymoon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's weird shit. Oh man. Poor Michael Ironside. He just knows his wife's getting plowed by a guy who's much bigger than him. Like, she's never gonna be fulfilled afterwards. He's just
Jackhammer.
this sad, fat, bald guy.
He was
with tiny
really
dick.
pissed.
I would be too. I'd be super pissed. Like, in this day and age, that would be like if Katrina, my wife, had to like go on assignment and just fuck like Chris Hemsworth for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never gonna live up to
Would you
that.
track him to the fucking Mars to kill him?
Have fucking murder Chris Hemsworth.
He's a
Fucking
dead
Ozzy.
man.
Fuck that guy. Fuck Thor. I'll kill Thor.
Oh,
Then you've got Cohagen, which isn't a big part of the movie until the end. You got Melina, who's like his female like love interest, and she's a big part of how they try to say it is a dream, because at the beginning of the movie when he's at recall, they're like, we're gonna give you like this broad to fuck while you're like in your memories. Like, describe your favorite kind of girl, and he's like, tall,
brunette,
Athletic.
brunette, athletic, ethnic. And so like they were like, look, how did we get this like perfect woman for you if we didn't just program it and stuff like that? And she rescues him throughout. Then there's Benny, who drives a cab.
Dude, I
on
liked
Mars.
Benny.
Benny's tight. He's like keeps saying he's like, I've got 5 kids to feed. And then at the end they realize he's a double agent when he says 4. They're like, wait a second, you said 5. And he's like, fuck, my cover's blown. And he just like presses the button, and all of a sudden like the army of Cohagen's
Yeah.
goons come out of nowhere. And then he like tries to kill them with like a giant like drill for
Yeah.
like boring out tunnels. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, those drills were like crisscrossing
then-
the roads and like tearing shit up underground all the time. Seemed like you were always in danger of
Yeah.
getting hit by a giant drill machine.
And then what's ironic is the drill machine got destroyed by a little drill. Arnold used his construction skill. They shouldn't have implanted him with construction skills because he used a drill to destroy
was
the
their
giant
own
drill. They
undoing.
drilled through, and they drilled into Benny,
Yeah.
and Benny died.
Good.
He
Fuck Benny.
died immediately.
Fuck Benny.
Traitor.
Fucking traitor.
Two-faced
He was a
bastard.
mutant, and he was going against the mutants.
You got 5
Dick.
kids.
He had that weird arm. That reveal was really
Yeah.
cool though, because he like pulls off this glove and this like arm
This
folds
praying
out. It's
mantis
just
arm.
bone. Oh, it was really cool. The mutants were pretty cool. You got I don't remember his name, but the actor who's in Breaking Bad who plays the DEA
Yeah.
guy. He plays like one of those main.
That guy with
mutants
like
that,
the folded over face thing.
Yeah, the guy who looks like he's got like a labial fold over his face.
Yeah.
That was a great line. You got some nerve showing your face around here, Hauser. Look who's
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah. There was a lot of like good one-liners and little puns in here that I didn't write down because this movie I was like super just into, and I was just watching it and paying attention to it. I don't know if there is any notes that I took on that. Nope. But I also like the line when they're talking about was it Kuato? Kuato. He's like, the Martians love Kuato. They think he's George Washington. And when they describe like that's the only real explanation you get of what he is until you reveal that he's a weird mutant attached to another man. And man, this world's so cool. Like when they get to the world and you see all these like mutants, like you've had all these mutants like, I'll guess your birthday for $1 and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it just builds up, and he like is super tender. Like to these mutants. Like he walks up to this like one mutant, and he like pets her face, and he like tells her she's like beautiful or special or something like that. Like Quaid Arnold is a really nice guy.
He's
like,
a great action hero in this movie.
Yeah,
easy to get on board, easy to root for him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. He's just like in over his head, and he's like an average guy who's fucking ripped and yoked like
just
crazy.
Your
with
average,
the skills,
super buff, hunk dude.
Austrian dude.
Just a story of an everyman, really. It could be anybody. It could be you or me.
Well, it's interesting because originally, so this is based off a book, and
where does he work out?
I
guess he just does construction. He just works out on that jackhammer all the time.
So in that scene when they're doing the construction site, there's just a bunch of like beams, like steel beams in the background set up. I bet he's the one who just set those up. He just drove them into the ground. Like, all right, guys, we're good.
Single-handedly.
Fucking yokes. Let's see if there's anything in here specific. Like the action scenes in this are great. Like they're just quick and brutal. Like it's not like in a lot of modern action movies where like they all know kung fu and everything. Like he's just fucking punching people in the face and their necks are snapping,
like smashing them into walls and stuff like that.
And stuff like that. And, it's just great. And then at the end, like there's a lot of collateral damage in this movie. Like so many civilians die in this movie.
The first chase scene where he's using just this pedestrian as a meat shield.
Yeah,
what the hell?
He does that, and he goes through and he explodes the Johnny Cab.
Yeah.
And then he goes when they go into that whorehouse. I can't remember what Last Resort. The first time, and like the bad guys follow him, and they immediately just start opening fire. Like they kill a ton of whores and mutants and their patrons.
They killed the 3-boob girl immediately.
Yeah,
they killed her immediately because she sassed them, and yeah, they killed a ton of people. It was crazy. And then like Michael Ironside's character Richter and Cohagen were just totally on board with, like, at one point they just cut off the oxygen to one dome. They're like, nope, we're just not gonna we're not gonna give it to them. So they killed like everybody in a dome. But luckily they released the oxygen just before, but they were willing to kill presumably thousands and thousands of people just to try to get to Arnold. Like, that's stupid. Fuck them.
Yeah, I also like the message that Quaid left himself, when he's watching on the little computer in the briefcase, and he's like super like cool talking to himself. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
get your
he's
ass
like
tomorrow.
kind of talking down to him, like, you're an idiot, but I'm the guy. Just fucking figure it out,
Be
bro.
like me, because I am you.
You're not you.
Yeah.
You're me.
You're me. Yeah.
Don't fuck up at being me. I'll be really disappointed in you.
And then when it's revealed, the big twist at the end is he does find Melina. Melina gets him to Quado, and then all the Cohagen's goons just like swarm the place, kill him like immediately, Quado. And then it's revealed that he really is this Hosser guy, and that the whole scenario was set up. Like the only way that they would buy it would be he has to defect and then get his memory erased and then come back. And he's just like super smug, and he's just like a dickhead. Like, I think this is one of Arnold's best acting.
He's
roles,
great in this,
really. Like he has some nuance. Like he plays the Hosser definitely different than he played Quaid, and then like the weird hybrid version before he realizes what's going on. This is probably the most nuanced Arnold performance I've ever seen.
Arnold's a great actor, man.
I mean, I won't go that far.
I would.
He's adequate.
I have.
I just did.
You did. Done.
All right. You're entitled
You
to
went
your
that
opinion,
far.
even
Well,
if you're
I'm going to
wrong.
go ahead and say there's a lot of Arnold movies I like, and he's an actor.
Oh, there's a
so
lot of
he's a
Arnold
really good
movies I
actor.
like, but I don't think he's a good actor.
I don't know. I think he's good.
I think he's fine for what it is. I think he's gotten better. Like, if you go and look at his old movies from like
He's
the
a
70s
reason
and
I
early
like a
80s,
lot of
he's
the movies he's
atrocious.
in.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love a lot of the movies he's in. I just don't think it's necessarily him. I think it's just that nostalgia because he was the biggest action hero ever, because he's just like, nobody had ever seen somebody like him in the movies because he's just fucking huge and got this ridiculous accent.
I don't know. He fought a predator.
He did fight a predator, and he won.
Spoiler alert.
That's the mark of a great actor.
Killing a predator. All right. Anything else that you guys really want to talk about on this movie?
No.
On the
I feel like there's so much like that.
Just watch it. I would just very, very, very highly
just
recommend
watch
to
it.
people to watch it if you have not seen it.
Must
that
watch.
scene when like they're doing the oxygen and they like fall down to the planet and their masks like break and their faces are expanding and shit. That's so fucking creepy. I remember that used to creep me out as a kid, but it's such a cool effect.
Yeah,
It looks
gross,
awesome.
It's awesome.
The only thing that's weird about it is after they recover and they get all the oxygen, how is their face not all distorted and saggy and wrinkled with broken blood
Oh,
vessels?
it just
like,
snaps
they go back
right
to
back.
looking
Just
normal
snaps right back.
instantly.
That's
It just
the
snaps
science
back.
behind it, Michael. It's perfect.
I really
Oh,
liked
okay.
the like how obvious it was that the big Martian landscape was a model. Like it
Yeah.
looked really cool.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, it was super obvious, but I think it was really. I like stuff like that. Like I like the
Yeah, so
idea
do I.
that like there were people who had to fabricate all that stuff and light it up, and you know, it looks like similar in the way that like model trains are cool. You know, like it's like a really cool
Model
diorama.
trains are awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. Looked great.
It's really detailed stuff.
And then the only other thing I had was just the whole plot. Like, I have a question for you guys. Maybe I missed something, but the whole plot is basically he is this bad guy who pretended to be good, but then for whatever reason during the transformation he actually ended up being a good guy. But they're trying to keep him on Earth. They're like, don't get him to Mars. Don't get him to Mars. When were they going to bring him back to Mars to actually finish the plan to find Kuato? Like,
I don't know.
I don't understand. Like, Cohagen and Richter and Sharon Stone's character wanted him to stay on Earth, but the whole point was they did want him to get to Mars. So it was a little weird that they tried to like not send him here or there.
Maybe it was just a
when he
mind
wanted
game.
to.
Maybe they just wanted him to think he shouldn't go to Mars, so that he would go to Mars.
I guess, but like Cohagen was pissed at Richter. He's like, yeah, Richter almost fucked this up. It's like, why would you not bring Richter in and tell him this is what's going on at that point?
Richter kept trying to kill him.
Yeah, but that's because Richter didn't know what's going on. He just thinks it's this fucking giant dude plowing his wife. Like, tell him why his wife is getting plowed for the greater good.
Nah, he's got to get kept in the dark, man.
For the
Or
greater
else he
good.
wouldn't be
You gotta
fine
see,
with it.
I know it
he
sucks
basically
that your
offered
wife
up
is getting
Richter's wife so he could go
Hey.
out with his plan.
You know what happens when you get into bed with Cohagen and Dick Jones? Your life is not your own, okay?
No.
Figure it out.
People die.
Also, one last science critique, because I'm an amateur scientist.
Yeah.
Why was the sky on Mars blue?
Well, they mentioned it when they were going into the recall.
Well, they did. They said, "Have you ever seen a blue sky on Mars?" And that was in the memory, in the dream.
Yeah. Oh, that's new.
But at the end, yeah, that's new. But the reason our sky is blue, it's reflecting all the water on the Earth because we're 75% water.
I'm gonna go ahead
Why
and
would-
say it's because it's all the ice going into the atmosphere.
But
No,
it's like optical. Like
It's vapor.
Yeah, it's not.
There's nothing for it to
Yeah.
reflect off of. That doesn't make sense. Like, the sky would be red because it would be reflecting off all the red of Mars.
I think
don't
it's
like
just
this
so you
movie
can
anymore.
see the difference on the horizon in those shots.
Yeah,
Like, it
that
could be a
it's
different. It has
happy.
to be a different color for contrast.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and
Science was different in
guess so.
1990.
We
That's
didn't
true,
know nearly
I
as much
guess.
about Mars as we do now.
that's true. I feel like I know a lot more about Mars than I did in 1990 as a
Oh, yeah.
2-year-old.
Much more.
Oh,
man.
decent amount.
I'm pretty much done with talking about this movie. Like I like Dustin said earlier, fucking watch this movie. It's really great.
Oh yeah, must watch.
There's a lot of really cool stuff. This was one of the first movies to do full CG animation on that X-ray scene.
Yeah.
Like every day when they go to
Yeah, that
work,
was cool.
they have to go through this X-ray machine, which is really really cool. It had some interesting future tech, like that weird mask that the woman had, or that he had, where he was dressed as like a woman, and it was amazing. It was really cool. There's a lot of really really cool, just weird future shit in this movie.
As long as you
and
can
it's
just,
definitely worth watching.
skip the part. Well, not skip the part, but just ignore the fact that everything is glass. It's perfect.
Yeah, but they use that to their advantage. Like, there is a point where he shoots something made out of glass and people get sucked out. Like, there's a point where they like do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
just I think it makes for a more
doesn't make
interesting
sense
looking
if you're
movie. But
playing.
like if you compare this colony to like the LV-426 colony from Aliens, right? Like
Mhm.
that colony has no windows. Like that's all
No, it
just
doesn't.
like corridors and metal and stuff. Like
Spaceship.
it.
And you would think that they would just BS having like a force field or something like that. But this isn't the only universe that does that. I was playing Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I just finally got that game, even though it's been out for like a year and a half. And there's a lot of points in the game where you can go and shoot glass, and you're on like a space station, and you can have them people get sucked out, and it's pretty cool. Like you can do that, and then like blast doors come down and stop the air from getting out. But yeah, it's kind of dumb. Like don't do that. It's so easy to break glass on accident. Like what if somebody just got drunk and crashed one of those cars that they have into the wall? Like everyone could die.
Yeah, so if you're making a space colony, leave the glass at home.
I feel like the three of us, with our sci-fi expertise of, between the three of us, 60-ish years of watching sci-fi movies, we could build or design a better system. We couldn't build it. We don't have the technical know-how, but we could be like, hey, don't put glass there.
I mean,
hey,
we could tell them
there.
what to build it out of.
Yes.
And what features would be important.
We just need Arnold to build it for us.
Yeah. And we could definitely oppress the people by denying them oxygen.
All right, so pretty great movie. Go back and watch it. Just everyone go watch that movie.
Right on.
And now we've got to pay the bills. So this podcast is brought to you by Audible. Audible is a audiobook app that's pretty awesome. If you use our promo code, not our promo code, just our link, it's audibletrial.com/MDXpods. You can get a free 30-day trial and a free book. And this Total Recall is based off a book, so why don't you guys check it out, read it, tell us what the differences are, and let us know on Twitter or Instagram or email if anybody's interested in doing that. That's some homework. I'll tell you guys what, if somebody goes through and gets that audiobook, listens to it, and gives us a report on it on email or whatever, I'll read it on the air, and I'll give you guys, we'll autograph a copy of this movie for you and send it your way. How's that sound, guys?
Very generous.
No problem.
Yep. So go to audibletrial.com/MDXpods, get a free book on us, make it Total Recall if you want. It doesn't have to be, but get any book you want. And what's really great about it is if you cancel your subscription, you got to keep the books that you've already purchased, and including the free ones. So it's awesome. Do it. Check it out. There's some really great stuff on there. I'm really enjoying It by Stephen King. I'm almost done with it. And by almost done, I still have 20 fucking hours in it. It's a fucking long book. It's like 50 hours. Yeah. But that's it. Check it out, guys. Thank you for supporting the podcast by supporting our sponsor. All right. So we're going to just dive right into the second Total Recall. This one stars Colin Farrell, Kate Beckinsale, Bryan Cranston, and I never can remember the guy's last name, but Bokeem, I think it's like Woodsbine or something like that. He was recently in Spider-Man Homecoming as the Shocker. He also had Bill Nighy in this movie, who's awesome. Anytime Bill Nighy's in a movie, I expect it to be good. And I think I might have been disappointed this time around. Yeah, the guy who directed this movie, Len Wiseman, is actually Kate Beckinsale's husband and directed her in all the Underworld movies. And that's why Bill Nighy and her were in this movie. But that's basically all the trivia I care about on this movie. Oh, the other thing, Scarlett Johansson was supposed to play the Jessica Biel character. I forgot that Jessica Biel was... I didn't name her because nobody remembers Jessica Biel. She just doesn't have much of a presence. But Scarlett Johansson was supposed to be the love interest in this movie, but she was like, I could be in this one or the Avengers. And I think she made the right call going to Avengers.
But I think she did make the right.
Yeah. So Double D, can you break down this movie for me? Can you tell me what IMDb has to say about this one?
I can do exactly that. In fact, let's see. This one is written by Ali Strupp. Okay. Douglas Quaid is a factory worker with a beautiful wife living in a futuristic world where the majority of the Earth has been rendered uninhabitable. For Quaid, recall, a process which false memories are implanted into a subject's head, seem like just the getaway he needs. Quaid finds himself thrust into a midst of global conspiracy when the procedure to implant a secret agent mission to his memory goes wrong.
Did you say midget?
I totally said midget.
That was in the first movie.
I know. I couldn't get her out of my head, I guess. All right, let me read that again. Quaid finds himself thrust into the midst of a global conspiracy when the procedure to implant a secret agent mission into his memory goes wrong. Or does it?
Oh. So much intrigue.
Mystery.
Oh. So, right off the bat, like, this one's interesting because it takes place... Not interesting. It's different in that it takes place on Earth the entire time. Like, it opens with, like, a scrawl saying, like, the chemical warfare destroyed all the world except for Australia and Britain.
What the hell?
And they're saying that, like, space is the most precious commodity. And so people commute from Australia through the Earth's core, which doesn't make any
No
sense. But they like take an elevator that just drops through, and then there's a point where like gravity is reversing. Well, no, gravity's always gonna like go towards the middle. I don't fucking know. It doesn't make any sense. But they fall through the Earth in this giant elevator and pop up in England. Yeah, the fall. And they pop up in England, and then they go to work. And the whole movie basically revolves around Cohagen trying to build a synthetic army so he can take over Australia because they have a lot more space. And it's like, well, no one's saying you guys have to stay in England. Like, you guys can move over and colonize Australia. It's pretty big. Like, right off the bat, like, the plot doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
I have a question, though, about the fall. Is there only one elevator?
There's only one.
Yeah.
How do they get so it's only on one side at a time at any time?
Yeah, but it only takes like 16 minutes. So basically every 16 minutes you can go there and back. Like, it's no different than like a bus.
Yeah, but there's only
Like,
one bus.
For
Yeah, but there's
all
only-
of the people of Earth.
Yeah.
But there's only 2 destinations, so that's kind of fine.
Nope, I missed
It's
my
I'm
easy.
just
bus.
saying
I
they
guess
could have
I'm
made
not going
like
to
2
work today.
lanes, you know?
Oh no, you would just wait 16. You would wait a half an hour because it takes 16 minutes down and then 16 minutes back, and they don't. Give
How
you
many
very
people
long
can
to
fit on it?
load. Like when you go in, like when they go in that scene and they have like the joke, or Colin Farrell's like, "We do the same thing every day. We sit in the same seats every day," and his friend is like, "Fine, you want to change this up?" And he like goes and sits in a different chair.
Real different.
And he's like, "Wow, this is great." But they, as soon as they walk in, they're like, "Get to your seats. The fall will commence in
1 minute,
60
yeah.
seconds." It's like, as soon as you walk in, you have 60 seconds to get into your chair before you fall thousands and thousands of miles. Like, that's not a lot of time. And it seems like it's 100% automated. But, you know, it's only 16 minutes. So if you're late, if you miss it, you're just going to be late to work by like half an hour. You just wait the 16 minutes for it to go to England, and then you wait the 16 minutes for it to come back.
And then you wait the other 16 minutes to get to England.
Oh, yeah. So you're like 45. Well, yeah, but you're still only a half hour later than you were originally going to be. But so it's fine.
How many people can fit on it at a time?
It didn't look like a lot.
It didn't look that big. Well, it didn't. I think there was multiple floors in it because you only saw like one row. I'm sure there's like 30, 40 like layers like that.
But I mean, you have the entire colony, right? Going on.
Well, you know what? That doesn't make sense with it. Is, well, not all the entire.
Does
that's where
anyone
most of the colony
work
goes.
in Australia?
They would have to, because there are all those like brothels and weird bars and recalls in Australia.
Yeah.
Like they've got like a Pinocchio pleasure town in Australia. But you know what I'm curious about, because every time that they're in the fall, when they get in, they're sitting upright.
Yeah.
So it's in the opposite. That means there's got to be a lot of seats that are upside down that are not being used, or people are strapped upside down in seats, because it didn't look like those seats rotated. They looked like they were fixed. There's got to be at least half the seats facing the opposite direction than what would be comfortable for one flight.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we saw those parts inside of it rotating. Maybe it was actually just. The
Oh,
whole
did they
thing
rotate?
rotating.
Okay.
Well, 'cause
Oh, no.
it
Yeah.
switched to gravity, I assume.
Yeah. Whatever. It's stupid. But right off the bat, like my first note is there. He has a nightmare, and they open a hatch and they get out, but he gets caught by this weird lasso. He wakes up, and I go, "What a dream!" If I had a nightmare and then woke up next to Kate Beckinsale, I'd be fine. I think that I would just listen to Kate Beckinsale when she's like, "It's just a dream, and don't go to recall. Just stay with me." Because Kate Beckinsale's fucking gorgeous.
I did find it
And
interesting.
I would not question that
that he
existence.
didn't mention the Jessica Biel character.
Well, why would you when you say, like, I'm having this dream with this, like, chick who's your height, but with bigger boobs? Like, similar build, but with bigger boobs? Like, I don't know.
But then why?
just gonna piss her off.
Why would she ask? Was it just you? What? Yeah.
Because, well, she knows that he's some sort of undercover agent. She just doesn't know to what extent. So maybe she's trying to find out what he knows so she can report it to Cohagen.
I suppose. But that's
The thing that makes the
specific
most sense to
question
me.
ask.
Yeah, it's totally a specific answer. It's one of those women like, "Are you cheating on me in your dreams?" But I think I'd be fine. I'd make it work. I would forget that I was a spy to stay with Kate Beckinsale, and I would let Cohagen take over the world. Because that's fine.
Yeah.
What's the real consequence to that?
Nothing.
Nothing, right? It already sucks there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might as well date or be married to Kate Beckinsale. It's
Yeah.
fine. The other thing that I thought was interesting was, so Kate Beckinsale and Colin Farrell are both English. And once he realizes that he's a spy and he goes through the Total Recall thing, she starts speaking with her natural
Yeah.
accent. but never at any point does Colin Farrell speak an accent. And then you find out later on that he was actually Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, not
Which was pretty cool. I was like, oh shit, Ethan Hawke. What a twist.
Weird.
And so this movie goes a little bit beyond just him getting implanted and doing this. It's the same plot in terms of like, he went undercover and then he
went to recall.
Got his memories erased. But this time it seems like he actually did switch sides, but didn't. Like this one's a little bit more ambiguous as to whether or not he was a true double agent. But he also went and got facial reconstruction surgery. Like that's a pretty big deal, especially when you've got those like the equivalent of that mask. They've got like that mask that they had in the original movie. They had like a collar that it was like a hologram around your face.
Yeah.
Which kind of bugs me that just didn't work. Like immediately, like he puts it on, and within 30 seconds, it just doesn't work.
Well, it could have been because he was in that scanner thing.
Oh, maybe, but it seems like the whole point of that is to get through those situations.
Yeah.
And it didn't work because he has all those passports that match the faces on that. So presumably it's meant to travel from place to place.
That's true.
So it's weird that didn't work. I think it was supposed to just be a nod to the original, but it's kind of dumb that it just didn't work at all.
No, it wasn't even like So when they were doing that scene, you had a lady that was very similar to the fake head lady right in front of him in line that said 2 weeks. So that was the nod to the original.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
I forgot about that. This movie was very forgettable.
Yes.
I know I had trouble actually trying to watch this movie.
Oh, dude, when it came to like the last 45 minutes, I could not pay attention.
The problem with this movie is it was just so generic.
Yeah.
Like it was during the mid 2000, I'd say from like 2006 to really it just kind of stopped a couple of years ago. Kind of stopped with like the RoboCop remake. Just these generic glossy features. Everything looks the same. Just the flying cars, the weird synthetic robots, kind of thing. Like there was nothing unique about this movie. Like it felt very much like that Ultraviolet movie with Mila Jovovich that came out a couple years prior to it. There's just the action wasn't even that great. Like every action piece was shown in the trailer, and that was just an issue that Sony still has to this day. Like Spider-Man: Homecoming, you saw a lot of the major action beats in the trailer. You saw with the RoboCop one that we covered not too long ago, everything was in that trailer. By the time I saw the movie, I was like, I could have just watched the trailer and known exactly what happened in this movie. Like Sony's just terrible at marketing their movies. So when I saw this movie in theaters, I was really disappointed when I got out of it. I was just like, that sucked. I think I'm pretty sure I called Dustin and was like, don't go watch this movie. Like it's not worth it in theaters.
No, I do remember that call, and I did not go see this movie in theaters.
No, they did not.
Good job, buddy. You saved yourself some money.
I had a very hard time even staying interested in this. I tried to watch this movie several times, and probably within about 20 minutes of starting it both times, I fell asleep.
I actually got this on iTunes, and so I got it on iTunes to watch on the road, and when I went out of town like a week ago, and we left at we didn't even leave that late. We left at like 11 a.m. So it's not like I was sleep deprived or anything. And I got to the point where he went to recall, fought Kate Beckinsale the first time, and like gets away. And I fell asleep, and then I woke up like an hour later on my road trip, and it was like in the middle of the movie, and I was like, "Fuck, do I have to go back and watch like this hour of movie?" And then I didn't because it was my turn to drive, and then I ended up having to pay for this movie a fucking second time I can actually finish it. So I rented this movie fucking twice.
And you watched it in theaters.
And I watched it in theaters. I've wasted way too much money on this.
Good God.
So basically, some of the big differences, obviously, no Mars, no mutants. There was still a 3-boobed woman.
There was.
Yeah.
Which the effect looked much better, but I don't know if a 3-boobed woman would really interest me that much.
Not really.
If I had 3 hands.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm cool with 2 boobs. I'm fine with it.
I think that's really the ideal number.
Call me old-fashioned.
Call me old-fashioned. But, give me a good old-fashioned 2-boobed woman any day of the week. So then they combined the I don't remember what Sharon Stone's character in the original one was, but they combined the wife and the Richter, where she was tracking him the entire movie, and she was the one who wanted to kill him. Jessica Biel's character was whatever. She was so bland.
All of them were.
Everybody was, and I remember watching the trailers for this movie and thinking the action looked pretty cool, but it actually looked really sloppy. Like, it looked like Colin Farrell couldn't really do the choreography all that well.
No, he
Like,
didn't.
it was all sloppy and weird.
It was
I
a
didn't
bad
like it.
movie.
Yeah. And I liked all the future stuff. Like, I liked the hologram that he had where he was like asking questions, and himself was answering it. I liked like all the weapons and all the gadgets and stuff like that. But it wasn't enough to make the movie. And it was 100% green screened. It wasn't like, it was much better than, we talked about how awful King Kong's green screen was. Like, it was obviously much better than that being, 10 years later or whatever it was. But it's still just so bland and everything looked the same. Like, I'm tired of just the future post-apocalyptic like future worlds that are like technologically advanced.
Yeah.
It just all the cities look the same in all these movies. There's nothing interesting about it.
No, and the characters aren't fleshed out. It's not. There's no humor element to it. Like, it has none of the charm that the original had.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
it just wasn't.
No.
It wasn't a good movie to watch.
And that weird elevator scene, like those elevators made no sense. How they were like, it's like the Willy Wonka elevator that can go in all directions. It's
Yeah.
like, you're talking about how space is a premium in this world, but how much space was wasted by these elevators that didn't, like, why do you need to have an elevator that goes that many ways? Like, you're living in a world where everything's cramped and like square footage is like don't fucking waste thousands of square footage on all these stupid tunnels. Just have an elevator that goes up and down, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and walk down your fucking hallways, you fucking lazy people.
You bums.
And the other thing that didn't make sense is they kept talking about how much space was a premium, but every fucking room looked huge. Like, his apartment, like the Hosser's apartment was fucking huge. Even their apartment in Australia, and they're talking about like, our apartment sucks. It's so small. Like, do you think I would really live in this shithole with you? And it's like, that apartment's bigger than mine. It's much bigger than mine. Like, yeah, it's made out of concrete, which, that's kind of ugly. But they've got plenty of space to roll around. Like, they had like a giant room with their bed with nothing else in it. Like, it's not like they were, going to IKEA and having to figure out how to maximize 320 square feet with all the like the stackable shit.
They had a bunch of room to fight, which was fun.
Yeah, yeah. Like, they even had that weird stair that had glass that he can slide under and then like end up in a different room. Like, there was some architecture done in that building. Like, they tried to make it aesthetically pleasing and give you space to have feng shui and everything like that. Like, I just didn't understand the general conflict of this movie. It seemed like space was plentiful.
Yeah.
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 It was just a bad movie, dude.
Oh god.
Oh,
They missed a lot
other...
of their own logic.
Yeah, that didn't make sense. I did really enjoy the recall scene with like John Cho with his like bleached hair, and he's going in and explaining everything. And yeah, Harold from Harold and Kumar, Sulu, and he goes in and he looks like super cool. Like, he looks like the generic like Yakuza things you see in a lot of other like worse movies, or I guess similar movies. And he goes through and he's like quizzing him, like, "Oh, you're faithful to your wife. That's cool." And he explains they go into a little bit more detail explaining that you can't have any redundant memories or it just breaks your brain.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool.
Whoa, you're a liar.
And
You're a spy.
you know what I really liked? What I thought was cool. There's a point when he's like walking around this like pleasure town, going to recall, and of course you see all the prostitutes and everything. But they had this like tattoo parlor and they had like LED tattoos. I actually thought that was pretty cool.
That
not
was
enough.
cool,
Like, there was a lot of cool little things, but not enough to make this world cool. They just didn't flesh out the world enough for me to care.
I have a question for you, Michael.
Yes.
Would you have sex with a robot?
No, I'd be afraid it would like malfunction and like snap my dick off.
That's the only reason.
That, and like I'm sure that would be really, really expensive.
Yeah.
What about you,
no,
Double D? Would you have sex with a
would
robot?
not. I would.
What about you, Dustin?
Yes, I would.
I mean,
Oh,
I'm sure
man.
they're good at what they do, but I don't know. I couldn't do it.
Well, it's interesting.
I mean, it depends on the robot.
I mean, the ones that were in.
I wouldn't have sex with like a Terminator endoskeleton or whatever.
Lucy Lubot, like in Futurama.
Like, if
I
I
love you,
wouldn't have
Lucy
it if
Lubot.
it had like a skull face looking at me all scary.
I mean, these
But
had like
one
no
of these
face,
ones I
right?
would. Yeah,
They didn't,
sure.
They didn't have
whatever.
a face.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know. You
weird.
could probably put
Well,
whatever
the
face
thing
you
that's
want on there.
interesting is like Japan has those like I don't know what they're actually called, but they're like I remember reading an article. It popped up in like Apple News, like so it was like a big enough deal that like everybody would like to read this. And they were saying that we're like 4 or 5 years away from having robots that feel like humans. Like they're getting to the point where they think they've got like a silicone that feels close enough to humans that will have like heaters in like the private areas, and they will be actually able to program any sexual position and move, and have these robots do all the work for you, which I think that'll like somebody went on and said like that will be the downfall of the human race, because everyone's just gonna be fucking these robots instead of like fucking each other. Because like the theory behind it is if you can have a robot who you don't have to worry about pleasuring, you don't have to worry about if they're enjoying it, and it's just for your fulfillment, why are you gonna go out and bang somebody else?
Human contact?
Human contact, yeah. But I don't know. That's crazy. This is going into weird territory.
You're saying no to robots. Both of you are hard nose on robots.
On robots.
I don't think so. Especially like the weird robots like Double D said.
I think you're a little bit curious.
Even
it depends on the robot.
And even like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, they've got that weird pleasure planet, and they're like banging those like androids, and they're all yellow and weird. Like that stuff's weird.
Yeah.
Like maybe if it was like Futurama, where they get like you could get a robot that looks.
What about like
a
Rick and Morty?
celebrity.
Like in Rick and Morty.
Nah, that one's weird.
Like Morty's robot.
That was a weird episode.
Morty's souvenir.
Yeah. Yeah, can I just get I can't do a Morty voice. I'm not even going to try. That was weird.
Yep.
All right. I think we've just completely gone off.
What about
tangents.
13-year-old Mike? Would 13-year-old Mike fuck a robot?
I think the thing about 13-year-olds is even though everybody knows 13-year-olds are like masturbating, 13-year-olds think that they're smart enough to hide the fact that they're doing that, and I don't think you can hide a full-sized human robot in your bedroom.
Well, I'm saying consequence-free. Like, no one's going to know except you and the robot.
I don't know, man. I can't. I don't want to go back into that mindset. Right?
It took me a long time to get out of there.
It took me a long time to get out of there. I found Kristen Dunst really attractive in Spider-Man.
Okay.
Like, I don't think she's that attractive now. My 13-year-old self is. Things have changed. My standards have risen.
Oh, God.
I see.
So 13-year-old Mike definitely would have done
Yeah, just a few other things I kind of want to talk about. Like this movie tried to build continuity, like the matching bullet holes through their hands, and that's how he figures out at the end of the movie that Kate Beckinsale was pretending to be Jessica Biel.
Yep.
But once again, that didn't quite work out because the clothing didn't match. Like she wasn't wearing the same. She was wearing the same clothing that she was wearing the entire movie. She just had Jessica Biel's head.
Well, she was like,
and as I
covering
pointed
herself
out,
with a blanket or something, wasn't she?
Oh, was she?
Yeah, I think so.
But like, there's no way that you can confuse those two bodies. Like, they're both very attractive women, but they're drastically different shapes and everything like that. Like, I would never fall for that. I mean, maybe in trauma, maybe, but he figures it out pretty good. Good on him, Colin Farrell. But yeah, man, this movie sucked.
This movie was a turd.
Well, at the end,
It was so hard.
He was like rubbing his arm where he supposedly got that little tattoo, right?
Well, yeah, I don't think it was actually a tattoo. I think it was just to mark where in the injection. I think it's just a just a way to like a red herring to throw you off. Like, is it a dream, kind of thing? But I feel like that's just like a stamp like you would get when you go
Like
into a
club or
concert
something
kind of
like
thing.
that.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like that's where the injection's going to be. They
And
stamp it.
probably
Like,
just like
he's.
sweat off.
You know, another thing I had a big problem with this movie, and this is like action movies in general, but I really noticed it in this one. So he had that hand phone, which was really, really cool. And like you can put it on glass and it will display things on glass. He cuts open his hand with a bottle that he finds on the ground in like what's supposed to be like the ghetto. Cuts this thing out, pulls it out, and this thing's like long. This is like 11 inches long. Pulls it out, and he's just going around like nothing happened the rest of the movie. Like, man, I get a paper cut on my finger, and I'm like I cut myself with a box cutter the other day, and like every time I touch anything or I'm typing on a keyboard, I'm like, fuck, that hurts. Fuck, that hurts,
Are you a
man.
secret agent, Michael?
I'm not, but still, come on, man. You can't just like cut something out of your hand and all that with a fucking. It would be one thing if you had like a scalpel and it was a nice clean cut, but he used glass, which is jagged. It would not be a clean cut. That would fucking hurt. He'd be.
It would
in
also
pain.
get infected, man. It's gross ground glass.
Nah, dude, he wrapped it up in some dirty cloth. He's fine.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It disinfects. He's fine.
This is a bad movie.
It's a bad movie. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Oh.
Don't watch this movie. I can definitely say.
I would
in this
suggest
case,
if you're thinking about watching this movie, like just take a nap instead.
I mean,
Just
you
go to
could-
or like, I'm sure this movie's been done on like everything wrong, like Cinema Sins, or I'm sure like Honest Trailers has done something like that, or just fucking read the Wikipedia entry on it and just skip it. Just skip this movie. There's nothing redeeming
This
about
movie
it.
did not need to be made.
Watch the trailer.
No.
Watch the movie.
Yep. Go on YouTube. The trailer's up there.
So I think we can say, did this need to be remade?
No.
I'm actually getting, the more we talk about it, the angrier I'm starting to get angry.
I'm starting to get sleepy again.
Irrational. Oh man.
No, it's a hard no.
The same thing happened just, on a tangent. Katrina and I who were in my childhood, we covered Blank Check a couple weeks ago. And I remember loving that movie as a kid, and watching it as an adult, there's just all these things wrong with it. And in the middle of the podcast, like, I was just like, this doesn't add up. And while we were recording it, at one point, Katrina's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. And I was like, this is awful, and I'm getting angry just talking about it. Can we just end the podcast? It was so bad. Like, oh, man. I'm done. All right. Thank you guys for listening to Remake Rewind. You can follow everything that's Remake Rewind and MDXpods on MDXpods.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram at MDXpods. Once again, we're going to be doing a giveaway. We didn't really plan this, but I just decided to do it. If somebody goes through and signs up for Audible and gets that book, I want to see like a screenshot of you like signing up for Audible. And
you want a book report, right?
And I want a book report.
Audible.
It doesn't have to be long, just like a paragraph, and then you send it to mdxpods@gmail.com, or tweet it in a very long series of tweets at us, and we'll read it. And the first person to do that, I will buy a copy of the original Total Recall, 1990. I'll autograph it. I'll send it to San Francisco, Double D, and Dustin will autograph it, and they will mail it to whoever does
It'll
this.
be fantastic.
And yeah, that's it.
All right.
Thank you for doing all that stuff. Thank you for listening, and
get your ass
see
to
you guys
Mars
in a couple weeks. Get your ass to Mars.
Mars.